Today's video will be dedicated to the brand called Ormonde Jayne. This is a British brand from London, but they have learned a lot from French perfumeries and they have adopted a lot of traditions into their craftsmanship. And this is not the only part that I appreciate about Ormonde Jayne. The part that I love the most is that their fragrances are inspired by traveling. And there are so many unique ingredients that are so rarely used in fragrances, which makes some of these super unique that you cannot find anywhere else. 7 fragrances of the signature collection were put into a nice discovery set, but I also hunted for a few more and I have them separately. So the entire signature collection is here and I will be reviewing each and one of them in this video. Logically, you would think that I would start with Ormonde Man and Ormonde Woman, the 2 fragrances that are in this set, but I have already done their review and you could see how I compare these fragrances side by side in a separate video. It is pretty long and detailed, but it really gives you an idea how they smell and if they are suitable for you or not. And the first one I would like to speak about is the one that I feel very ambiguous about, and it's called Tolu. You might have seen Tolu Balsam in some other fragrances as one of the base notes, but you probably don't know how it smells in reality. I have never smelled it in reality, but I have an idea how it smells in fragrances. Here it really is Tolu Balsam, but you have to wait till it comes out. The beginning of this fragrance makes me think of a dried gin with some citruses and orange blossoms swimming in there. And this is a kind of strange mix that is leaning more towards masculine side. Very quickly, I start being annoyed by the presence of rose, and I don't like roses. And then the fragrance begins gaining some sweetness, and that sweetness is firstly coming from orchard. I don't think I know so many fragrances where orchard is such a bright note as it is here. And this orchard is so intense that it's even covering up the rose. And this rose is becoming less annoying to me. Meanwhile, the fragrance is staying more masculine in my perception. Then this sweetness is intensified further by Tolu. Tolu is amber, but it's sweet and balsamic. I still kind of feel ambiguous about this fragrance because on the level of like and dislike, I'm leaning more towards dislike, but at the same time, I find this fragrance interesting and enchanting. I think this fragrance could be perfect for a man who likes sweet florals. Frangipani. Frangipani flower can be tricky. Sometimes the sweetness is too cloying, but here it's not the case. It opens up with a nice basket of tropical fruits and I really love the opening, but I'm not sure I like how it develops further on my skin. What I get in the middle is mostly rose and lily of the valley. These 2 notes very often create what I call the smell of a new doll. Here it's a little bit different because I also feel something sweet and I identify it more as a note of peaches and apricots rather than plum and sweet florals. The base is mostly musky and I think there is something special about this musk. It has a sort of aquatic vibe. While amber and vanilla, they don't contribute to that extra sweetness of Frangipani, which could be the case. So overall the fragrance is not as sweet as it might seem. Another floral in the set is called Champaka. Champaka is a very unique flower and I've never smelled it in nature, so I can only fantasize how it smells. I know that it's coming from Magnolia family. I also know that the absolute of Champaka is a very expensive ingredient. Most of the time when we see Champaka in the pyramid, it is not Champaka absolute, but a synthetic note imitating the scent of Champaka. Here it's not the case. Here it is real Champaka absolute that is supposed to come with a note of basmati rice. And I was so excited about it, but unfortunately most of the notes are mute for me. What I get from this fragrance is mostly freesia with a light citrusy opening and a musky base. That's pretty much it. To me, it smells like pure innocence. If you want to pass for a virgin at your wedding, this could be the fragrance you would choose. It's really soft and beautiful, and it really works well with my skin chemistry. Like my skin smells really, really lovely, but unfortunately it doesn't radiate at all. If you are a lover of Champaka, you are very likely to like another fragrance that is called PRIVÉ. If you look at the Fragrantica, it actually has much more notes than the official description. I will show you both on the side. And here, once again, the fragrance is featuring basmati rice. Unfortunately, I don't feel basmati rice at all. What I feel in here is a beautiful, very thin combination of sweet and floral and citrusy elements. I cannot really distinguish the notes individually, but this playfulness of something sour and sweet at the same time, I really enjoy. And if I had to describe my first impression of this fragrance, it feels so cozy. It's like I wrap a scarf around my neck because this perfume feels really transparent. So I wrap this very long scarf that's playing with the wind and I take a 17-mile drive. Unfortunately, by the time I finish my 17-mile drive, this fragrance is gone because the part that I like about it does not last more than an hour and it actually settles just to a simple freesia. This was exactly the same story with Champaka. Both fragrances just settle to a simple freesia, which I actually like, but I just find it a bit boring. The good thing is that the base is not very strong and Ambre Royal is not disturbing even a tiny bit. Priv. I think I would really like this fragrance if there was no rose. But of course Priv is all about a rose. This rose is not as annoying as I was thinking because it's very well blended with saffron. The part that I liked about Priv is some interesting sweetness, and from the pyramid I could guess that this sweetness comes from dates, orange flower absolute, and broom. And despite that I know these three ingredients, I could not really identify them because I think they form a unified mix and there is no transition from dates to broom. By the way, broom is this flower that grows like bushes on the hills on the southern France. It smells very similar to mimosa. So I like this sweetness quite a lot, but I start liking it more towards the dry down. And at dry down, this sweetness is still lingering around, flirting a bit with amber, but at that time there is no rose anymore, and that's when I like Priv. That's why I say, if rose was not here, I think this fragrance would be really amazing. The fragrance where I did not enjoy amber is called Ambre Royal. And this is unfortunate because it is one of the signature fragrances of the brand. First of all, I did not like Ambre Royal, and I overall don't like when amber and musk are put in the center of a composition. I was hoping for some nice florals in here, especially for OSMANTHUS, that is usually very well done by the brand. But unfortunately, I could get only a little touch of orchard, and this touch did not save the fragrance for me, leaving it to the competition of Ambre Royal and musk. Yesterday I was wearing a fragrance called OSMANTHUS, and it's really nicely done. I also picked up a flower, the real flower of OSMANTHUS, to see how it compares to the fragrance. In nature, OSMANTHUS is pretty sharp, while the note of OSMANTHUS in this fragrance is pretty delicate. The only thing is that on my skin it sounded more like a masculine cologne, so I'm gonna try it again on a blotter today. Pomelo is really beautifully done. It's not citrus, it's not orange, it really is pomelo skin. When I'm peeling pomelo, that's the note that I'm getting here right away. So realistic. Then it's turning more into cologne-like fragrance, both on paper and my skin. I don't get much of a spiciness and herbal notes in here, but that phase when pomelo is mixed with OSMANTHUS, that's my favorite one. A friend of this fragrance would probably be OSMANTHUS by Acqua di Parma, which is also nice, delicate cologne-like OSMANTHUS, but I think Acqua di Parma is more watery, despite that it has peonies and not water lilies and jasmine. In any case, I always assign cologne-like delicate floral fragrances to younger men, and this is a case with Ormonde Jayne OSMANTHUS. One of the recent fragrances that is called Gatsby 22 was launched in 2022. And I think this one is more appropriate for young gentlemen rather than for ladies. Let me try it together with you. It opens up with a citrusy, a little peppery cologne-like freshness. It's really enjoyable, but for me it obviously gives more of a masculine vibe. OSMANTHUS starts opening up a bit later together with orange blossom, and the fragrance has predominantly musky base, I would say. When it comes to other notes in the base, I would not even think of leather unless I read the description. When I read the description, I was like, okay, leather is here, but it's very, very delicate, almost not here. So overall, it's more of a citrusy, cologne-like, vibrant, dynamic, and young perfume for men. ISFARKAND. This fragrance was not love at first sight, but I found myself to be totally addicted to it. I'm so drawn into it, it's just unbelievable. It opens up with a very realistic pink pepper, and then you're waiting for other notes to come out, and this fragrance is going from a very bright opening to a very quiet, intimate, close to skin fragrance. But it smells so amazing on my skin. I did not even think that I could like oak moss that much. This oak moss is very soft, it's like fluffy and woody, and it has a little citrusy touch. And that touch of iris, let me see if I can describe that one. I think that's the key why I'm so drawn into it. One of my favorite smells in nature is a smell of purple iris after the rain. It does not have very strong floral smell, but it smells like drops of rain. And these floral drops of rain are mixed with this citrusy and slightly spicy oak moss. That is just so beautiful. The only problem is performance. I had a feeling that this fragrance was just absorbed and killed by my skin, or it just went from opening directly to dry down. That dry down is just staying on skin, but it's just so amazing. I think if I smelled it on a man, this would be just instant sexual chemistry. This perfume is made for sex nights, because that's the time when you don't want very radiating loud fragrance, but you still want to have your skin smelling nice and mix with your pheromones. So I think if a man is wearing this fragrance and his skin chemistry is working well with it, it could be just wow. Or it's made for gentlemen who like fragrances to be their second skin, who don't wear perfumes to impress others, but just wear it for themselves. If you enjoy the woody evergreen scent of hemlock in Ormonde Woman and Ormonde Man, you definitely will enjoy the fragrance that is called Evernia. When I smelled it, I'm like, this is the same style like Ormonde Man and Ormonde Woman, but just so much better. And I was sure that hemlock was here, but somehow it's not in the pyramid. But to me, it is the dominant scent of this fragrance. Evernia actually translates as oak moss. The full name is Evernia prunastri. In modern fragrances, when you see oak moss, it has nothing to do with the natural oak moss. Most of the time, it's a sign of presence of ambroxan. Back in the 70s, oak moss was a product of the natural oak moss lichen. It was forbidden and was forgotten for a few decades, and now it is allowed to be used in perfumeries again. So Linda, the owner and the creator of Ormonde Jayne perfumes, decided to give a new life to that oak moss, and that's how Evernia was born. This perfume is unisex, but in my perception, this is a female version of Terre d'Hermès. I really love Terre d'Hermès. It's probably one of my favorite fragrances. And sometimes I secretly wear it myself, despite that I think it's really masculine. So Evernia was a great find for me, because for me this is like a female version of Terre d'Hermès. The element that makes a big difference in here is sandalwood. And sandalwood could be tricky. A lot of people get a note of pickle when it comes to sandalwood. Here, there is no pickle. This is really sandalwood the way I imagine perfect sandalwood. And it's mixed with that evergreen and sweet oak moss. The rest of the notes add interesting nuances. You can catch a little bit of floral, you can catch a little bit of powdery, a little bit of spicy. And overall, this is just a perfect, such a harmonious and balanced combination. And this is what I really like in perfumes. And on top of it, this fragrance is really long lasting. It will last you all day. It projects for maybe 5-6 hours, then it becomes more intimate, but it is still so enjoyable even at the end of the day.